Men must look for the peace of Christ in the kingdom of Christ. Holy Mary, Mother of God, our Mother, teach us to believe, to hope, to love with you. Show us the way to his kingdom. Star of the sea, shine upon us and guide us on our way. What essentially is the era of peace that is coming after these days of darkness? Why did the papal theologian for 5 popes, including St. John Paul II, say it will be the greatest miracle in the history of the world, second only to the resurrection? Why did heaven say to Elizabeth Kindelman of Hungary the Spirit of Pentecost will flood the earth with his power and a great miracle will gain the attention of all humanity? This will be the effect of grace of the flame of love which is Jesus Christ himself. Something like this has not happened since the Word became flesh. Satan's blindness means the universal triumph of my divine heart, the liberation of souls, and the opening of the way to salvation to its fullest extent. All this sounds rather extraordinary, epical in fact. And it will be, because what God is about to do will, at last, bring to fulfillment the words we have been praying for 2,000 years, Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven, Matthew chapter 6 verse 10, when Jesus says that this will open the way to salvation to its fullest extent, he means that a new grace is coming, a final gift, to the Church in order to sanctify and prepare her as a bride for the final coming of the groom at the end of time. What is this gift? It is the kingdom of the divine will, or gift of living in the divine will. Have you seen what living in my will is? It is to enjoy, while remaining on earth, all the divine qualities. It is the sanctity not yet known, and which I will make known, which will set in place the last ornament, the most beautiful and most brilliant among all the other sanctities, and that will be the crown and completion of all other sanctities. Our first parents' rightful claims include, but are not limited to, the preternatural gifts of immortality, infused knowledge, immunity from concupiscence, and their mastery over all creation. Indeed, after original sin, Adam and Eve, who enjoyed the rightful claims of kingship and queenship over all creation, lost this rightful claim, whence creation turned against them. Jesus and Our Lady dictated to servant of God Luisa Piccarreta. They repeatedly explain how the restoration of the divine will in man will be the pinnacle of salvation history. Jesus is almost beside himself in anticipation of this final crowning, which is the glory of his passion. In creation, my ideal was to form the kingdom of my will in my creature's soul. My primary purpose was to make each man the image of the divine Trinity by virtue of the fulfillment of my will in him. But by man's withdrawal from my will, I lost my kingdom in him, and for 6,000 long years I have had to battle. So now we come to it, the clash of the kingdoms is underway. But in this darkness, God has given us a star to follow, Mary, she who literally shows us the path we are to take in order to prepare for the descent of this kingdom. It is to her as mother and model that the Church must look in order to understand in its completeness the meaning of her own mission. In the apparitions of Our Lady around the world, she often announces herself under a title such as, Our Lady Queen of Peace, the Immaculate Conception, or Our Lady of Sorrows, etc. These are not boasts or mere descriptions, they are prophetic reflections of who and what the Church herself is to become within the boundaries of time. Among all believers she is like a mirror, in which are reflected in the most profound and limpid way, the mighty works of God. When either Mary or the Church is spoken of, the meaning can be understood of both, almost without qualification. Hence, the Church is going to become immaculate, she too is going to become the mother of universal peace, and thus, she too church must also pass by way of sorrows in order to realize this coming resurrection. In fact, this purity is a necessary precursor in order for the kingdom of the divine will to descend and for Jesus to reign within it, that is, within the church in a new modality. Only a pure soul can boldly say, "Thy kingdom come." One who has heard Paul say, "Let not sin therefore reign in your mortal bodies," and has purified himself in action, thought and word will say to God, "Thy kingdom come." Our Lady explained to Luisa how she was conceived without sin, but that it was still necessary for her throughout her young life to expand the kingdom of the divine will within in her heart in order to prepare for the descent of Jesus into her womb. In fact, it was not until the Annunciation that she became aware of the divine plan, thus giving her complete fiat at that moment. By living in the divine will, I formed the heavens and its divine kingdom within my soul. Had I not formed this kingdom within me, the Word would never have descended from heaven to earth. The only reason he descended was because he was able to descend into his own kingdom, which the divine will had established within me. Indeed, the Word would never have descended into a foreign kingdom, not at all. For this reason he first wanted to form his kingdom within me, and then descend into it as a conqueror. There is the key to understanding what you and I must do in the days ahead in order to prepare for the coming of Christ to reign within us in this new and divine holiness. We have to cease giving life to our human will and embrace the divine will in all things. Hence, Our Lady becomes the sign that has appeared in our times, a woman clothed in the sun of the divine will who is thus able to elude the dragon. If we then are to defeat Satan in this hour of apostasy, which is really the futile crowning of the human will, then we must imitate this woman with all our being. Do you know what renders us dissimilar? It is your will that robs you of the freshness of grace, of the beauty that enraptures your Creator, of the strength that conquers and endures everything and of the love that impacts everything. In a word, your will is not the will which animates your Heavenly Mother. I knew my human will only to keep it sacrificed in homage to my Creator. If we too keep our human will sacrificed, whilst asking each day for God to give us the gift of living in the divine will, then we will slowly begin to observe how interior discord, restlessness, anxiety, fear, and malaise, in a word, the effects of the human will begin to melt before the rising sun within. I can tell you that since I said, yes, to Our Lady over a year ago to live in the divine will, she has crushed beneath her heels so much in me that has stolen away peace even though I am only at the very beginning of this new journey. It has filled me with so much hope. For authentic hope is not whipping oneself into a state of wishful thinking, but is born when one actually exercises faith in not only repenting but doing what God asks of him. As Our Lady said to Luisa, "The light of the Son of the Divine will that enveloped me was so great that, embellishing and investing my humanity, it continuously produced heavenly flowers in my soul. I felt the heavens lower themselves to me as the earth of my humanity arose within it. So, in me, heaven and earth embraced, were reconciled and exchanged the kiss of peace and love. Hence, one can better understand now the foundation of the era of peace, the reunion of the will of man with the will of God, to the very ends of the earth. In this single will, the fruits of justice and peace will manifest in a way so miraculously as to have not had their equal since the incarnation and resurrection of Jesus himself. Here it is foretold that his kingdom will have no limits, and will be enriched with justice and peace, In his days shall justice spring up, and abundance of peace, and he shall rule from sea to sea, and from the river unto the ends of the earth. When once men recognize, both in private and in public life, that Christ is King, society will at last receive the great blessings of real liberty, well-ordered discipline, peace and harmony. For with the spread and the universal extent of the kingdom of Christ, men will become more and more conscious of the link that binds them together, and thus many conflicts will be either prevented entirely or at least their bitterness will be diminished. That link is the divine will. Peace is not merely the absence of war. Peace is the tranquility of order. Peace is the work of justice and the effect of charity. In Christ is realized the right order of all things, the union of heaven and earth, as God the Father intended from the beginning. It is the obedience of God the Son incarnate which re-establishes, restores, the original communion of man with God and, therefore, peace in the world. His obedience unites once again all things, things in heaven and things on earth. All creation, said St. Paul, groans and labors up till now, awaiting Christ's redemptive efforts to restore the proper relationship between God and his creation. But Christ's redemptive act did not of itself restore all things, it simply made the work of redemption possible, it began our redemption. Just as all men share in the disobedience of Adam, so all men must share in the obedience of Christ to the Father's will. Redemption will be complete only when all men share his obedience. This is our great hope and our invocation, your kingdom come. A kingdom of peace, justice and serenity, which will re-establish the original harmony of creation.